A boy is using his cell phone next to a woman when a boy appears screaming that he has a spider, and the two are scared. The boy and the woman desperately begin to take off their clothes and he ends up covering the woman's private parts. The woman thanks him and the boy turns around and watches the hidden boy and calls him. The woman is worried about the dress and the boy asks her not to worry. The boy was actually his son and asks why he did that, and he replies that he misses his mother a lot. The woman watches as the father captivates the son and he asks if everything is fine with the woman and apologizes and justifies that the boy misses his mother a lot, and the woman says everything is fine. And she says she only wanted one outfit because she can't keep that one. The friendly man with the boy suggests that she go to their house so that she can take off that shirt and put on more comfortable clothes for her. The woman says she doesn't know if it's a good idea. The boy asks her to, and the father is smiling with joy, and says it will be quick. And he asks if she has a lot of commitment and island for her son. However, the somewhat confused woman agrees to go to their house to change clothes. They are happy and say that it will be quick, and that when she changes her clothes they will drop her off at her house. She agrees. And then the three get ready and leave towards their house. Later the three come walking, and when approaching the boy's house they find a man in a well-dressed suit is staring and waiting for him to arrive. The boy then faces it too and asks what he is doing in front of his house, and the man says he would stay on his tail. The boy says he is being inconvenient, and the man says that in their company he can only work who has a stable family, and to know if it's stable or not, he needs to see with his eyes. The boy then says that he has a stable family. He then asks, how can he be sure? The boy asks for calm and suggests that he come in because his son is there and doesn't want him to go through the situation, and says he's going to go in and leave his son and come back to talk. The man then agrees. The boy opens the gate and calls his wife and son to enter the house, facing the company inspector. In the house the woman asks who the man was up front. The man starts saying that the man was an inspector for the company, and the woman interrupts him asking what company he was from, and he says that he works for, and continues saying that at the company it requires him to have a stable family, and that's why they are constantly in this situation and his son doing that kind of thing. And the inspector repeatedly goes to his house to look, and he keeps stalling because he has to work to support the child, and so the woman completely agrees, and he ends up saying that's why he was there. The woman says she has an idea, but the guy stops her and apologizes for saying they were a family, and said to fool the inspector, and then he says she can speak her idea. She says shyly that he can pretend she's his wife and she doesn't care. And the guy says he doesn't even know what to say and just has to thank him, and since she's going to help, he says he'll get it an outfit for her, and she fully agrees. And then he asks her to hold on for a moment and gets up to get her clothes. He returns with a black shirt for the woman and then tells her not to notice it, as it is a little old, as he had kept it for a while, as the clothes belonged to his ex-wife. The woman asks if she won't mind, and the boy says that she is no longer with us. The woman is surprised and sad and apologizes, and the boy says it will look beautiful on her, and she thanks him. So she gets up and says she's going to get dressed, and he tells her to make herself comfortable. Outside, the inspector looking at the weather waiting for the boy. The boy opens the door and stares at the inspector for a moment, then tells them to begin. The inspector agrees and asks permission to enter his house, and he grants it, and the boy soon enters with a face of contempt. The inspector asks how much time they have together, and the two answer different dates, and the inspector becomes suspicious. The woman then says it was so intense it feels like 1 year. The inspector, then suspicious, says that they will not deceive him and then asks which neighborhood he works in. The woman then asks that she doesn't have the obligation to know which neighborhood he works in because she's just with him and doesn't need it. The suspicious inspector agrees, and then asks again what the boy works with. And then they both get tense, but the woman luckily says real estate and it's the right answer. And then he asks what he does in real estate. The two tense up and the inspector becomes more suspicious. The young man says that he is being very inconvenient and the inspector replies that this is his job. The boy agrees, but he's complicating things, and the inspector says he's the boss and if he doesn't like it he'll resign. The inspector then asks if they are dating or living together. She says they are living together. The inspector then asks how long they have been living together. The woman then replies that they've been living together for 3 months, and they've been together for 6 months, and the boy agrees with her. The inspector says he's confused, and they say it's all right and he's the one messing it up. The inspector then says that he goes to his house straight away and had never seen the woman in his house. The boy then says that there is no need for him to show her around because she is almost all the time taking care of his son and that there is no time, and she says that she works a lot. The inspector then proposes that he be alone with the woman, and she replies that she sees no need. The inspector then inconveniently stares and settles down on the sofa, and then they ask why, and he replies that this is part of his job. And he says that in the company everyone is lying that he is married and that he has a child, and in the end he finds out it's all a lie, and what makes sure they aren't lying too. The boy tries to interrupt and the inspector says out loud that it's part of his job and he needs to talk to the girl alone, and otherwise the girl interrupts, and then she says that she agrees to be alone with him, and the boy also agrees, and then he leaves, leaving them alone in the room. The woman then stays in the living room and arranges herself on the couch. The inspector then mockingly asks the woman how much the boy is paying her to do this theater, and the woman says that he is not paying her. The inspector then says in a mocking way that he doesn't believe this story because the guy is a nobody and is married to a beautiful woman just like her, and reaffirms that he doesn't believe it, and the woman then says that he is not paying her, and then says that the boy is a great father, great man and a great boyfriend too. He says that he really paid her well, and she says again that he is not paying her. The inspector then takes out his cell phone and asks her for her full name, and she asks why. He says he needs her name for the record, and she says she won't answer any more questions for him. And he says that she better respond, and the woman says that this is abuse and gets angry. He threatens, or she says her full name or he will fire the boy. The woman becomes tense and nervous. Soon, the boy arrives in the room again. The inspector says that she refuses to give her full name, refuses to answer other questions, and tells the young man to stop by the office the next day so he can sign his resignation. The man then says that he has a son to raise and says that it is absurd. The two are shocked by the man's attitude. The inspector then says that the next day he will look for him and will take his resignation letter to him. The boy begs not to do it, but the inspector leaves. The next day the boy arrives with the woman at a house. The boy then asks if she lives in that place and she replies yes. The boy then apologizes to her, as he is still stunned by what happened recently, and the woman tells him to stay calm and that everything will be fine. The then shy boy asks how she knew he worked in real estate. She said it was a hunch but says it was a joke. She knew because she saw the documents on his desk. And he says he was surprised, and then he says he doesn't know how it's going to be now because he's worried about his son because he's going to be fired. The woman then calms him down and says that she won't go, because the next day she will be there again at his house to pretend that she is his wife again, and asks him if he believes in miracles. Confused, he says yes. She holds his hand and tells him to believe, and beforehand she says that the next day they will continue and that she will be all right. And then they say goodbye. The next day the boy is nervous about sticking someone. When the inspector arrives greeting him, the boy then says that it was him again, and the inspector says that he guarantees that that would be the last time he will see him again, and he says that he brought something very calm, which is basically his resignation that you just have to sign. The woman appears and the inspector says that he won't believe that a pretty girl like her would be with someone like him, and that he won't believe their story. The woman asks what it is and the boy says it's the dismissal, and the inspector laughs. The woman takes the document, says he will not sign, and takes the paper and hands it to the inspector, who retorts and takes it from her hand, calling her abused, and tells him to sign and asks her who is she to do that. The woman then smiles perfectly and introduces herself as the majority shareholder in the real estate company he works for. The inspector is scared and surprised by the statement, and says that it was actually a mistake and was doing a simple experiment to see if he would react well, and she doesn't believe it. And he apologizes to the director. The director says that the only mistake is that he was hired and that unfortunately he will have to stop by the office to sign the resignation. The confused inspector asks if she is firing him. The director says that he is not competent for the position because he was plotting for the boy, who is a hard worker and from the family. And that these norms do not exist in the company, because he has a stable family, and he says he doesn't know what he wanted but it wasn't a good thing. He then says that he was just testing the boy and wasn't going to send him away, and pleads that he has a family to raise as well. The principal then tells him to get another job elsewhere if he can. He asks for a chance but she refuses. And she stares at him, and says why he wouldn't give the boy any chance. The ex-inspector looks crying and desperate and starts to leave, when the director screams for him to go soon and he leaves crying. The director says that he was plotting something for the boy. The boy is very emotional and thanks her. And apologizes to her. Then she tells him again that miracles exist and he agrees. She says it's going to be okay, and then he kisses her on the forehead and they hug, and he invites her into the house. Inside the house, the boy says he wanted to thank the woman for what she did for him and his son, and that if it weren't for her, his son wouldn't be with him, and he doesn't like to think about it, and he thanks the woman again for everything she's did for them. She says it's okay because she likes it. The excited boy asks if she's his new mom and she gets shy. The boy then says that they were just pretending to go through this situation and that it was all a lie, but on the bright side. And that she's going to live her life, and at that moment she gets serious. And then she says that she really wanted to stop lying. And in a shy way she says that she wants to date the guy. The boy gets excited and the guy is surprised. The woman says that she really enjoyed the time they spent and holds the boy's hand. And says that she was very busy at work and didn't go out to meet other people. And when she met him, everything was so perfect. And she says she found her soulmate. And the boy is very happy. The boy says he liked her a lot and tells them to give them a chance. The boy then shouts, "Look at a spider." And they smile, remembering the past when they met. And then they smile and hug each other.